Motivated by the anger generated over the new Arizona law, which allows local police to stop anyone suspected of being an illegal immigrant, thousands of demonstrators across the country came out to march to call for immigration reform.
We are here protesting because we're against the 1070 law. We are in favor of immigration reform. We are asking the government to have mercy on the immigrants and to not make us wait any longer.
What we want is for the raids to stop and to stop the deportations. We want a new immigration system. We want to have a path to legalization so we don't have to face so many troubles.
The message is clear. People are asking the Obama administration to stop the enforcement of local discriminatory laws and to pass a federal law to fix the broken immigration system.
We call on President Obama to publicly oppose and terminate all programs, including collaboration between state and local law enforcement and the Department of Homeland Security that results in racial profiling.
We only come here to work, and that is what we want. We want to be respected, and we want a residence card. Some of us have it and others don't, but we are here to fight for those who don't. That law is a crime, because they are not just looking for the undocumented. It is an attack against all Hispanics. We Hispanics will end up paying the consequences just for being Latino, just for having a Hispanic face. We will be attacked.
Que no los dejen solos.
This is still one of the hottest parts of the debate. How do you enforce SB 1070 without profiling? Can you?
You can't. And part of the problem is you almost have to walk in the shoes of a Latino to really grasp and understand it fully. You don't fully. I mean, and it's why the reaction is so visceral, why there's such anger and you know, if you've spent a life in which either you, your friends, your family have been pulled over simply for being Latinos outside the context of your immigration status and questioned and suspect simply because of the color of your skin because racial profiling exists, I'll tell you, right? I have Jessica, she's graduating from college. When she was in her senior year, she went to St. Benedict's High School. Her dad, the congressman, makes a good salary. Therefore, he could buy her a brand new car. And he lived in one of the nicest neighborhoods in the 4th Congressional District on the north side in Bucktown. So, you know, he lived in $1 million house, made a good salary. Daughter has a new car. Right in front of my house, Ray, she was pulled over by tactical police officers. Hands up on the car, asked for identification, and when they said, where'd you get the car? I mean, you know, she and I had a good conversation. She doesn't grow up angry about it, about why those things happen. But in Arizona, we know what's going to happen. It already exists. We know that under 287G, the federal program that allows local police departments to act in cooperation with the federal government, that those programs, look at Sheriff Arpaio in Arizona. It's what they do. So who are they going to pull over? Are they going to pull over somebody that looks like they came from Poland? From Ireland, from Italy? No, we know who they're going to pull over, and we know who they're going to ask for their IDs. How do you prove that you're an American citizen, that you're legally in the country? Because if I pull you over and you were going too fast, okay, so that's a legitimate stop, you were speeding. Now I go one step further and say, well, prove. I want everybody in the car to prove they're here legally in the United States because I suspect. We know, and worse, there are going to be citizens under this law that get to sue police departments if they don't catch enough illegals.
Well, the probable cause door usually gets opened when something else is wrong. Either the legendary busted taillight right. or you didn't begin signaling 50 meters before you came to the corner to begin your right turn or whatever it is. That opens the door, and then the inquiries about immigration status begin. Has this not worked in other places where it's been tried? Do we have any track record to go on to say, look, you just don't catch many fish when you try this thing?
Right. Good point. It doesn't work. It doesn't solve the criminal problem. Here's what statistically we know? What we know is that if you take the enforcement of 287G, 10% of the people were criminals. That is people we want to get rid of. The other 90% were undocumented workers. That is to say, they were here working without. So,
which is now going to be a crime in Arizona.
Which is now going to be just a crime. They're $500, and I don't know who they're going to send the people to. It's really chaotic, but it really speaks. But I want to go one step further. Look, one of the things that I had to talk to Jessica about after that incident with the police was that she still had to call 911 if she saw a crime. That she still has to help the police because she and I and the general population, we're the best tool the police got. We're better than their cop car, we're better than their guns, we're better than their badges. Why? Because we're millions of eyes and ears of the police department, without which they can't really be effective against crime. It's citizens and citizens' involvement. And so what you have in Arizona by creating laws, and laws like this across, is that you divide. You say, you know, they're not our friends. They're not our ally. They're really not here to serve and protect. They're really here to create a hostile environment in which we're discriminated against. You know who's happy? The drug dealers, the gang members, the criminal element, because government, through its very action, has now crippled the very police department that's there to stop them.
So you're saying that if you're undocumented in the Phoenix metropolitan area and you see something going down on the street, now you won't call the police.
You're not going to call the police. You're not going to cooperate with the police. And the fact is that if you go to major metropolitan areas, you go to L.A., go to New York, go to Chicago, 3 examples, the police department do not engage the general population in issues of immigration. Why? Because they want the cooperation of that general population in fighting crime on the very streets of those cities.
So what is, if I've heard everything that you've said about 1070, what is a legitimate, legal, public policy response for a state of the union which knows that it has within its borders hundreds of thousands of people who are not supposed to be working in the country? Are they supposed to just say, please, Mr. Federal Government, come help us, and wait until they do? Or can they take measures to protect their own economy, to protect their own local hospitals and school systems, to lighten the burden of a national problem within their own jurisdiction?
What they have is they have 2 U.S. senators, McCain, one of them, who I worked with very, very closely to bring about comprehensive immigration reform, who, quite honestly, has turned his back. And the other senator from Arizona, what they have is congressional delegations, which they should say, hey, listen, go to Washington, fix the problem. I mean, that's the way you fix the problem. You cannot take a federal issue and make it a local issue. Let's say tomorrow they didn't like the way the environmental standards were carried out because they create their own environmental standards. Let's say they didn't like the way people were getting mortgages and financial, and could they create their own Treasury Department and their own FDIC? No, people would say, wait a minute, you can't do that. You just can't create new standards because you don't like them. We kind of had a civil war about that, right? We're 50 states, we're the union, and there's a federal government. It's the responsibility. So I understand that the federal government hasn't fulfilled its responsibility, but that's how you interact with the federal government. You just don't create a new superstructure. And I think that's part of the problem that we have here, is that people kind of feel now that the local police have some inherent right to enforce immigration policy, but they don't have the inherent right to enforce the policy on environmental standards. They don't have, let's say Arizona said, you know, we really don't like the wages. So you know what? You know, screw that 40-hour work week and minimum wage and safety and OSHA. You have no place here because you're kind of in the way. We'd all go, you can't do that. The same thing really relates to immigration policy. The problem here is that in this instance, the federal government really hasn't stepped up.